Hello, magic muses, witches, heathens. Welcome back to As Above, So Below. We're going to be continuing our witchcraft series today, and we're going to be chatting about some myths about witchcraft or Wicca or the practice. So these are my personal beliefs, and also being a part of the craft for years now, I can also speak to things that I thought that I had to, conform to or believe in the beginning and where I'm at now. So we're going to chat about this first one, which is a pretty touchy subject, and it is love and light only. So the craft was never meant to be good. It is about wholeness. It's about integrating the light and the shadow and finding balance. So this whole concept of love and light came when people were starting to make witchcraft more, to water it down, to make it more digestible for people. And this came, through marketing and everything like that. But this concept really takes away the grit and the deep dive that the craft is. And it's also, it was meant to make it more socially acceptable, and that just strips away so many practices that this beautiful craft is. And a lot of the times people wanted the craft without the accountability behind it. So without doing the shadow work, or without, really looking at how their actions are affecting themselves or other people around them. And nature is a great example of this. The sun is not out all the time. We have the moon, we have nature, we have storms, we have earthquakes and tsunamis, and the craft is all about being connected to the earth and the whole. And this is also where protection magic comes into. You're not going to just let somebody into your home, or you're not going to let somebody abuse you or, harm you without putting up some defenses. And this is where the craft is so beautiful, because it teaches you how to be self-sustainable, how to have boundaries, how to have a backbone. And we're also going to talk about the Wiccan read, with harm to none, so mote it be. So sometimes harm is unavoidable. And I say that because you, again, are not going to let somebody attack you. And of course, you don't want the intention to be out there of harming somebody else, but this really makes your levels of self-defense, this is really important. Protective magic is a fundamental in the craft that you need to know. But this is just a concept that I just can't get down with. I love the light, I love the sun, I love love magic, I love all of those things. But I would not be where I am without integrating shadow work and looking at blind spots, looking at where depression, where anxiety is, where self-worth is. All of these things are so valuable to learn. And if you turn a blind eye to that, then you are really shutting off a big part of you. And it's through inner child work, it's through healing that you gain confidence. And that's also why we're here on Earth School, is to learn all of these things. And I have found that working with the craft is acceptable for that. It is, really allowing yourself to feel any sort of shame or guilt, and not to, stay in that, but to allow yourself to feel those things. As somebody who was a member of the Mormon Church for a very long time, there is so much surrounding suppression or around shame, like sexual shame, or you can't have this and you can't do that. The craft is very open. And how do you know where your suppression is or where you're feeling anxiety if you turn a blind eye to it? That is also a form of bypassing. And that is something that I am not about. So these are all my personal opinions, but again, witchcraft makes shadow work. It shines a light on shadow work. And this is a part of the craft that I actually find very useful, and I'm very, very connected to that. So another myth is that you have to be gifted your very first tarot deck in order to start practicing tarot or start practicing divination. I thought that this concept was just wild from the jump. This is a form of gatekeeping. And again, I am not about gatekeeping. This knowledge is not for any one person to hold. The craft is not it's not about power. It's not about you, having to go through all of these steps to gain wisdom. I don't understand that concept. So if you are feeling drawn to a deck that you know you need to have, or you know that this is a part of your evolution, your intuitive development, get the deck. Don't let all of these preconceived ideas that you have to be gifted a deck in order to do it. I was not gifted my first deck, and I have not been smote. So we're good, okay? I promise it's okay. Okay. Another myth is that you have to be born or initiated into witchcraft. So there's two different energies with this. And I'm not meaning to dismiss anybody who was born or who have people who can teach them witchcraft. And I'm also not, not lessening the initiation process of it. I am just saying that you don't have to be born or into witchcraft, or you don't have to be initiated into witchcraft to practice. It does not make you any less than. So with the whole concept of needing to be born into it, this is also a form of, I feel, spiritual privilege. And it kind of puts newcomers in a feeling of, oh, I wasn't born into this, so I can't do it. And to me, that is just, I don't get down with that. It creates a level of separation between those people who, didn't even have a choice really to be born into it, and then those people who are really drawn to the path and who want to do the work. I was not born into witchcraft by any means. Most of my family was, again, Mormon or Christian. I am really the first person in my line that I know of to walk this path. So if I waited to, again, have people to teach me, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. So, and there's also this notion that because people are born into witchcraft, that they don't have to study. And that is, again, not true. If babies were born into the craft, they would be casting circles and, reading tarot instead of, eating peas and doing whatever else they do. It's just that concept just doesn't make sense. So, and then being initiated, yes, it is a form of reverence, and there is so much meaning behind it. I was initiated, and there is a level of understanding and sacredness to that. But again, you do not have to be initiated to start to practice the craft. The craft is really for, it's about being useful. It's not necessarily about being special. There really should not be any sort of hierarchy to this. the craft was all about, midwives and herbalists and divination. And when we put that level of authority onto it, that is, how different is it than witchcraft, or than like Christianity or any of the Abrahamic religions? And that's another reason why I'm so drawn to this path, is because you can have your own autonomy. And the craft, witchcraft, is just that. Crafting is creative, and it can be you doing whatever you find purpose in with that. And somebody's craft is not going to look the same as yours. And just because somebody is initiated into the craft and you possibly weren't, that doesn't mean that your magic is any less than theirs. The difference between, somebody who is born into it, or somebody who is initiated, and somebody who just feels the craft in their bones, is you going through the teachings, you dissecting the knowledge. And it's about learning. And the craft is really, bloodlines don't teach technique. They really, they tell you your history, and maybe somebody will be a little bit more adept at it, a little bit more intuitive, but it's all about what you choose to do with the strengths of that. And somebody who doesn't have any lineage of witchcraft can be just as strong as somebody who was born into that. So release any shame, or release any preconceived ideas that you have to be born into it or be initiated, because that's just not true. So, and then another big one is that you have to do a spell a day, or you have to work with the full moon, with every single full moon that there is, or work with the new moon with every single new moon that there is. This creates spiritual burnout. And as somebody who knows this all too well, I would read books and I would say, yeah, I want to do that spell, and this seems like it's perfect for me to do. But if it requires a week's worth of attention, yes, I have done week worth spells, but if life got in the way, then I would beat myself up about it. And that is a myth. Like, you don't have to do a spell a day, or you don't have to work with all of the moon cycles in order to be, a witch, or for your practice to be valid. That's just not true. A lot of the times it's our own minds that are creating these structures, or these levels of like things that are just so hard to obtain. And the craft isn't supposed to be practiced like that. The craft is about cycles, about the seasons, and your ability to rest. Observation is a huge part of the craft. So if you are feeling like you are going to gain more insight from taking a more passive approach instead of doing, a week worth of candle spells, like, you don't have to be in action all the time. Craft is very feminine. So leaning into your levels of rest can really open up a whole new level of understanding for you. And I feel like this also really trains your brain to trust and to also get out of hypervigilance mode. Witchcraft is very psychological, and I like to practice. My practice goes hand in hand with self-development. And when I first started, I did think that I had to do X, Y, and Z to, have a great practice, or to be a great witch, and it's just not true. I have found that spells that require 15 minutes of my time are just as powerful as ones that I had to do for a whole week. So that's another thing too, is you see all these things on social media, you see everybody's altars, you see all of these elaborate spells that you have to do, and you have somebody telling you, like, you know, your candle magic is not as valid as this other type of magic, you know, like, I don't believe in that. I believe that your level of understanding and your intuition knows you completely, and your magic is so unique, and your spells will come out a lot more clearer and better and more successful if you follow what you are being told on the inside. The best spells that I've ever done have been so intuitive, and I actually, like, I have a foundation for my spells, but I really do more intuitive magic these days because I have built that foundation and built that library of knowledge and spells that I can just kind of go back to. And a lot of witchcraft is symbolic. So, you know, if you're working with a specific moon on a specific phase for something that you're trying to achieve, really go into your intuitive library before cracking open a book. See what your soul is wanting to teach you in that time period, because your practice is a reflection of you. So your outcomes are going to be much more successful if you allow your soul to speak in your spells and in your craft and in your rituals. So I hope this helped, guys. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, pop it in the comments below. I would love to chat with you. And if you are wanting to join my new moon in Aquarius solar eclipse ritual on February 17th, the link for it is in the description box below. We are starting to have a little community over on that side, and we are doing a lot of rituals that help with self-development or help us get out of our own ways. And with this one, it's going to be, we're going to write a letter from a year from now to ourselves, and we're going to keep it, and we're going to read it in a year. So, and I'll also be giving some knowledge on the transits that are happening around that time, because we will be moving from the year of the snake into the fire horse. So a lot of things are shifting and changing. So if you would like to join that, I would love to see you there. Otherwise, drop down in the comments if you want me to talk about a particular topic or anything like that. I'm here for you. So, but I love you. Blessed be. Bye.